Hey, all you Gare Bears out there, welcome to another edition of the Gare Bear Review with, you guessed it, your host, the Gare Bear, Mr. Gary. We're going to go over Oculus today. It's not an independent film, right? Yeah, it's not an independent film, but it's actually very interesting because it actually features a plot that features from another movie. And it's said that mirrors um, they basically block our paths to the other side. You know, our another dimension, if you will. So there are some people that think that, and I actually am a firm believer. I mean, there's a lot of study that goes into it. There's a lot of people that I talk to that I research online about this stuff, and it's interesting to know. And I mean, Bloody Mary alone. I mean, that story is featured on so many TV networks, shows, and film. So it was interesting to see that this came to light again. It was actually only 7 years ago when Kiefer Sutherland, that's right, Mr. Jack Bauer to some of you, went to the other side of a mirror. I say this because, well, Oculus kind of, sort of has that same concept. I say sort of because they use the mirror as a science fiction weapon, as it were, I guess. Basically, the story is that a father buys an antique from a shop. He buys an antique mirror for his office. When ever so slowly his attention goes towards it, he's either talking to it. There's weird sounds coming from the room, and away, and it goes to it and away from his family, and then the kind of it's kind of common, the in these films that he tries to kill, he ends up trying to kill them. You know what? It actually sounds very familiar. Let's recap this. A newly moved in family, they're in a new house. Father goes on his own. Father gets weird and starts becoming isolated from the family, only to then snap at everyone he loves and then ends up trying to kill them, and probably, if not succeeding on that. Okay, this is weird because I know that they couldn't have possibly taken that from the Amityville Horror Story. Nah, it can't be. That's just that's just crazy. Unfortunately, it's true. Yes, that's exactly what I saw in the story. It brought me back to the Amityville Horror Story, the original, not the Ryan Reynolds version. Although that was a decently good one as well. They tend to do well in those for some reason. But other than that, this is actually a different film. It's actually very interesting on how it was done. The entire film, they cross back and forth into the past and future. But the interesting part about it was that it started towards the end of the past of the event, I would say, and then it like gradually went to the beginning of the beginning of the tragedy. They would show like the ending, and then before the ending, and then they would go, and then it like jumped to the beginning, and then it basically just filled in the gaps in between, which is a common film trick most directors use in these types of horror films. But it's a great way to flow the story. It's actually one of those aha moments at the end, like, oh my god, I didn't see that, or oh, I can't believe it was that guy. Yeah, I know. It's now, to keep in mind that this film came out in April. Now, that is very far from horror movie territory. Usually it's around, uh, fall, winter. It's usually the end of horror films usually end around maybe January, and they start around November. Because you get to the October, you get to the Halloween month, so it actually works out. Which already isn't really a great start. Although what I mentioned before, it's really not a great way to start off. Now the story plot did get me to the theater only because it was only to add the only two actors in this film that I actually always love watching in TV and in film. You have Karen Gillian, who you all should know. If you don't, though, she's the companion Amy Pond on the popular Doctor Who show. If you don't know about that, little hint, hint. And Miss Katie Sackhoff, who you definitely, if you are a sci-fi nerd, you definitely know who Katie Sackhoff is. She was from Battlestar Galactica. You definitely need to know her. If you don't, I feel very bad for you. She was actually recently in, before this, she was in the Vin Diesel movie. It's the sequel to Blackout. I can't remember what. Oh, Chronicles of Riddick. Couldn't think of the name. She was in Riddick. I like that movie. That was a really good one too. But I mean, come on though. You need to have you have the right formula with a decently good cast, and a storyline that actually works, and yet it ends up unfortunately as a big flop and very laughable. The ending alone was uh, alone was laughable. Not to mention this film is severely, and I mean severely, predictable. When my friends and I saw this, the majority of the time in the film, we actually predicted it within the first 10 minutes of who would die, what would happen, and how it would be done. Look at it. It's an okay film. It's a horror movie during springtime, so you're not going to get a lot out of it. So I really can't recommend it. It really pains me to say that because I actually saw a lot of potential going into it, especially from the trailers alone. Um, However, uh, from if you want to see a really good horror movie, go see Mirrors with Keith Sutherland. I heard the sequel is just as good. It has Amy Smart in it in the first one. I really wish I could say that I would recommend this, but I really can't. It actually hurt. I did, however, did what Keith Sutherland film did. It basically the only thing that this thing did, it did what Keith Sutherland's Mirrors did. It made Mirrors evil, and then that they need to be destroyed. Call me crazy, but there will be a time where you're going to call me and go, hey, Bloody Mary's after me. It's that story alone still creeps the hell out of me. uh it, it it's a film where you need to not, I can't even explain on how this film is, because it's not bad, but it's not good. It's those ones. It's like those movies in between where it had a good formula, it had a good cast, it had what it what it needed, but it didn't strike anyone's chord. It was even the ending was very bad. I mean, it was horrible to watch a ending like that when you have a build up that big, especially towards the middle of the film. But what should not creep you out though, uh, just if you want to see it, check it out. I'm not saying no, I'm not saying yes, but I personally am not going to recommend it for anyone, unless you like Karen Gillian, which is why I saw it in the first place. Um, what should not creep you out though is make sure you is my channel. So make sure you guys should like, subscribe to that. You can do that in the description below or in general. And we the Gabarians select